Dr. Corvin had been working in space medicine for over 30 years, but he had never seen anything like this before. His long, thin fingers moved quickly across the glowing control panel as alarms started going off throughout the medical bay. The smell of burning electronics filled the air, and smoke was rising from what used to be their most advanced medical scanner. "What in the seven moons just happened?" shouted Nurse Tuluk as she rushed to grab the fire extinguisher. Her green skin had turned pale with worry as she sprayed the sparking machine. The patient lying on the medical table was completely still. She was a young woman with beautiful dark skin and braided hair that had come loose during whatever accident brought her here. Her breathing was steady, but she hadn't woken up since they pulled her from the damaged escape pod 3 hours ago. Dr. Corvin stared at the cracked screen of their medical scanner. In all his years treating aliens from across the galaxy, he had never seen this message before. The words were glowing red against the broken display: "Species not in database. Analysis failed. Critical system error." "That's impossible," he whispered, his voice barely audible over the sound of cooling fans working overtime. "This machine knows about every single life form we've ever discovered. It has information about 12,000 different species." Nurse Tuluk finished putting out the small fire and turned to look at their patient. "Maybe she's from one of those unexplored regions? Way out past the rim worlds?" Dr. Corvin shook his head slowly. "Even species from unexplored regions share basic biological patterns with known life forms. The scanner would at least give us a partial match or classify her as a variant of something familiar." He walked closer to the medical table, studying the unconscious woman more carefully. She looked almost normal if you ignored the fact that she had just destroyed their most expensive piece of medical equipment simply by existing. 2 arms, 2 legs, 1 head, the standard bipedal configuration that was common throughout the galaxy. But there was something different about her that Dr. Corvin couldn't quite identify. "Run a basic atmospheric analysis," he told Nurse Tuluk. "Let's see what kind of air she breathes." Tuluk activated a small handheld device and pointed it toward the patient. The device immediately started beeping frantically before its screen went completely dark. "It's dead," Tuluk said, shaking the device. "Completely fried. Just like the big scanner." Dr. Corvin felt a chill run down his spine. In 3 decades of treating alien patients, he had never encountered a life form that could break medical equipment just by being near it. His mind raced through possibilities. Was this some kind of defense mechanism? A biological weapon? Or something else entirely? "We need to contact Chief Security Officer Vorthak," he said, reaching for his communication device. "This situation is beyond normal medical protocols." As if summoned by his words, the massive form of Vorthak filled the doorway to the medical bay. The security chief was nearly 8 feet tall, covered in thick gray skin that looked like armor plating. His 4 eyes scanned the room, taking in the damaged equipment and the unconscious patient. "Doctor," Vorthak's voice rumbled like distant thunder, "I've been monitoring your communications. What exactly are we dealing with here?" Dr. Corvin gestured helplessly at the broken scanner. "I wish I knew. She appears to be from an unknown species, but that shouldn't be possible. More concerning is that our medical equipment fails whenever we try to analyze her." Vorthak moved closer to the medical table, his heavy footsteps echoing in the suddenly quiet room. "Could this be some form of biological warfare? A living weapon designed to disable our technology?" "I don't think so," Dr. Corvin replied, though doubt crept into his voice. "She was unconscious when we found her, apparently injured in some kind of accident. There were no other life signs in the escape pod, and no indication that she came here intentionally." The security chief studied the patient with his 4 unblinking eyes. "What do we know about her?" "Very little. The universal translator picked up some markings on her clothing that might be a name, something like Keisha Johnson. But we can't verify anything about her biology, her home world, or even what she needs to survive." Nurse Tuluk was checking the other medical devices in the room. "Doctor, I think we have a bigger problem. Every scanner in this section is showing error messages now. Just being near her seems to be affecting all of our equipment." Dr. Corvin looked at the readings on his personal tablet. The numbers were fluctuating wildly, as if the very presence of this unknown woman was causing interference with their technology. Whatever species she belonged to, they had evolved in ways that made them completely incompatible with modern galactic medical science. "We're going to have to do this the old-fashioned way," he said finally. Dr. Yethra arrived at the medical bay within minutes of receiving the emergency call. Her reputation as the ship's best xenobiologist preceded her. If anyone could figure out what they were dealing with, it would be her. Her scaled hands moved with practiced efficiency as she surveyed the damaged equipment scattered around the room. "Show me everything," she said, her voice calm despite the chaos surrounding them. Dr. Corvin quickly explained what had happened, pointing to the broken scanners and the unconscious patient who had somehow caused all this destruction. Dr. Yethra pulled out a small, older model scanner from her equipment bag. "This is a basic cellular analyzer. Much less powerful than your primary systems, but sometimes simpler is better." She aimed the device at the sleeping woman from a safe distance. The moment she activated it, sparks flew from the handheld unit. Dr. Yethra dropped it quickly as smoke began rising from its circuits. "Fascinating," she muttered, kneeling down to examine the destroyed device. "The interference pattern is unlike anything I've seen before. It's as if her very presence creates some kind of electromagnetic field that disrupts our technology." Nurse Tuluk looked worried. "Should we move her to an isolation chamber? Maybe the distance will help protect our equipment." "No," Dr. Yethra said firmly. "Moving her could be dangerous without knowing her medical needs. Besides, I want to understand what's happening here." She turned to Dr. Corvin. "Have you tried any non-electronic methods?" Dr. Corvin shook his head. "We've been so dependent on our advanced systems that I hadn't considered going back to basic techniques." "Well, now we don't have a choice." Dr. Yethra opened a different case, revealing what looked like ancient medical tools. "These are replicas of instruments used by early space explorers. No electronics, no computers, just simple mechanical devices." She approached the patient carefully, using a basic stethoscope to listen to the woman's heartbeat. The sound was strong and steady, but there was something unusual about the rhythm. "Her heart rate is different from any species I know. Not faster or slower, just different." Security Chief Vorthak watched from the doorway, his forearms crossed suspiciously. "Doctor, I need to know if this creature poses a threat to my ship. We have over 3,000 crew members aboard." "She's not a creature," Dr. Corvin said firmly. "She's a sentient being who needs medical help." Dr. Yethra continued her examination, using a simple magnifying glass to study the patient's skin. "Look at this cellular structure," she said, pointing to barely visible patterns. "I've never seen anything like it. The cells seem to be constantly changing, adapting." "Adapting to what?" Nurse Tuluk asked. "To us, apparently. To our environment, our air, maybe even our presence." Dr. Yethra stood up, her expression thoughtful. "I think her body is treating everything around her as a potential threat and adjusting accordingly." Dr. Corvin felt a chill of understanding. That would explain the equipment failures. If her biology is actively defending against anything it perceives as invasive, including our medical scanners, then every attempt to analyze her would be seen as an attack, Dr. Yethra finished. "Her immune system isn't just protecting her from diseases. It's protecting her from everything." The implications were staggering. Every known species in the galaxy had some form of immune system, but nothing like this. Most life forms specialized in defending against specific threats from their home environments. This woman seemed to have evolved a defense system that could handle anything. "How is that even possible?" Nurse Tuluk asked. Dr. Yethra was taking notes on an old-fashioned paper pad, the only thing that still worked reliably in the patient's presence. "Evolution usually pushes species toward specialization. You become very good at surviving in one particular environment. But what if a species evolved in an environment that was constantly changing? What if they had to deal with threats that other worlds never faced?" Security Chief Vorthak stepped closer. "You're saying her entire species evolved to be, what? Universal survivors?" "It's possible. Think about it, most worlds have stable environments. Species evolve to match those conditions and then stay relatively unchanged for millions of years. But what if their world was different? What if they faced constant challenges that required constant adaptation?" Dr. Corvin looked at the sleeping woman with new respect. "She's not just from an unknown species. She's from a species that evolved to survive anything. Which makes her incredibly valuable for study," Dr. Yethra added, "and potentially very dangerous if we don't understand her needs." As if responding to their conversation, the woman on the medical table stirred slightly. Her breathing changed, becoming deeper and more regular. The basic monitoring equipment that still functioned showed her vital signs strengthening. "She's waking up," Nurse Tuluk observed. Security Chief Vorthak's hand moved instinctively to his weapon. "Should we sedate her?" "With what?" Dr. Corvin asked. "We don't know how her system would react to any medication. It might adapt to neutralize anything we give her." Dr. Yethra watched the patient carefully. "No, let her wake up naturally. We need to communicate with her, learn about her species. This could be the most important first contact in galactic history. The woman's eyelids fluttered, and they all held their breath, waiting to meet this impossible being who had already changed everything they thought they knew about life in the galaxy. The woman's eyes opened slowly, blinking against the bright lights of the medical bay. Her dark brown eyes moved around the room, taking in the strange alien faces surrounding her bed. For a moment, there was only silence as both sides studied each other carefully. "Where am I?" she asked, her voice hoarse but strong. The universal translator worked perfectly, converting her words into the common galactic language. Dr. Corvin stepped forward, trying to appear as non-threatening as possible. "You're safe. You're aboard a medical ship called the Healing Dawn. We found you in a damaged escape pod and brought you here for treatment." The woman sat up slowly, wincing slightly as she moved. Her long braided hair fell over her shoulder as she examined her surroundings. "This doesn't look like any hospital I know. You're not human, are you?" "Human." Dr. Yethra moved closer, her notebook ready. "Is that what your species is called?" "My species." The woman looked genuinely confused. "You mean you've never met humans before? We've been traveling in space for years now. I thought everyone knew about Earth by this point." Dr. Corvin exchanged glances with his colleagues. "I'm afraid we have no record of humans or Earth in any of our databases. You appear to be the first of your kind that we've encountered." The woman's expression shifted from confusion to amazement. "Really? That's incredible. I guess space is bigger than we thought." She extended her hand toward Dr. Corvin. "I'm Deshaun Williams, by the way. Thanks for helping me." When Dr. Corvin reached out to shake her hand, he was surprised by how warm and firm her grip was. Most species had specific temperature ranges and pressure tolerances, but Deshaun seemed completely comfortable in their environment. "Deshaun," Dr. Yethra said carefully, "we need to ask you some questions about your biology. Our medical equipment has been having some unusual reactions when we try to scan you." Deshaun looked around at the damaged scanners scattered throughout the room. "Did I do that? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to break anything." "You didn't do it intentionally," Dr. Corvin assured her. "We think it might be a natural defense mechanism. Every time we try to analyze your biology, our equipment fails." "That's weird," Deshaun said, flexing her arms and checking her body for injuries. "I feel fine now, though. Better than fine, actually." "How long was I unconscious?" 3 days, Nurse Tuluk replied. "You had significant injuries when we found you. Broken ribs, internal bleeding, head trauma. But somehow, you appear to have healed completely." Deshaun nodded as if this was perfectly normal. "Yeah, we heal pretty fast. My grandmother always said we Williams are tough to kill." She paused, looking at their shocked expressions. "Is that not normal for other species?" Dr. Yethra was scribbling notes frantically. "Most species take weeks or months to recover from injuries like yours. Some would require surgical intervention. You've healed in 3 days without any medical treatment at all." "Well, humans are pretty adaptable," Deshaun explained. "We had to be growing up on Earth. That planet threw everything at us: ice ages, volcanic eruptions, plagues, asteroid impacts. The ones who survived were the ones who could adapt quickly." Security Chief Vortak had been listening quietly, but now he spoke up. "You're saying your entire species evolved to survive disasters?" "Not just survive them but thrive after them," Deshaun replied. "Every few thousand years, something tried to wipe us out. Massive climate changes, deadly diseases, natural disasters. But we always bounce back stronger than before." Dr. Corvin was beginning to understand. "That's why our scanners fail. Your biology is constantly adapting, even to things as harmless as medical analysis. Your body treats everything as a potential threat." "Makes sense," Deshaun agreed. "If you don't know what's going to try to kill you next, you have to be ready for anything." She looked around the room again. "So this is really the first time you've met humans? What about other species from Earth? There are other species on your planet?" Dr. Yethra asked, her excitement growing. "Oh yeah, millions of them. But humans are the only ones who made it to space as far as I know. We're good at figuring things out and surviving in new places." Deshaun swung her legs off the medical table. "Speaking of which, I should probably get going. My ship was heading to the Centauri system when we had that reactor failure." Dr. Corvin held up his hand. "Wait please. We'd like to learn more about your species. This is an incredible discovery for us." "And I'd love to tell you more," Deshaun said with a smile. "But I've got cargo to deliver and bills to pay. Being a freelance trader doesn't leave much time for scientific discussions." She stood up and stretched, and Dr. Corvin noticed how easily she moved despite being unconscious for 3 days. Most patients would need physical therapy after such a long period of inactivity. Your recovery rate is extraordinary, he observed. Deshawn shrugged. Like I said, we adapt fast. It's what we do best. Dr. Corvin convinced Deshawn to stay for a few more hours by offering her a hot meal and promising to help repair her damaged escape pod's communication system. As she sat in the medical bay's small conference room, enjoying what she called the best alien food I've ever tasted, the medical team gathered around her with notebooks and recording devices that actually worked when kept at a safe distance. Tell us about Earth, Dr. Yethra said, leaning forward with fascination. What makes your planet so different from others? Deshawn took a sip of the warm broth they'd provided and smiled. Well, for one thing, it's really unstable. Not in a bad way, just constantly changing. We've got these massive ice sheets that grow and shrink every few thousand years, covering entire continents. Volcanoes that can block out the sun for months. Weather patterns that can shift dramatically in just a few decades. That sounds terrible for developing life, Nurse Tuluk commented. You'd think so, right? But it actually made us stronger. See, most species I've heard about evolved on planets where things stayed pretty much the same for millions of years. They got really good at one thing, living in hot deserts or cold mountains or deep oceans. But humans? We had to get good at everything. Dr. Corvin was taking detailed notes. Can you give us specific examples? Sure, Deshawn said, settling back in her chair. About 70,000 years ago, a massive volcano erupted and nearly wiped us out. The ash blocked the sun, temperatures dropped, plants died. Most species would have gone extinct. But humans? We figured out how to make fire, create shelter, hunt new animals, even develop better tools. The population dropped to maybe a few thousand people, but we survived. Security Chief Vortak had been listening quietly, but now he spoke up. And this happened multiple times? Oh yeah, regularly. Ice ages every 100,000 years or so. Plague outbreaks that killed half the population. Asteroid impacts. Massive droughts. Each time we lost most of our people, but the survivors came back stronger and smarter. Dr. Yethra was fascinated. So your species essentially went through artificial selection events repeatedly. Only the most adaptable individuals survived to reproduce. Exactly. Deshawn pointed at her excitedly. And it wasn't just physical adaptation. We had to get smart too. Learning to work together, share information, build better technology. Every disaster taught us something new. Dr. Corvin was beginning to understand the implications. That's why your immune system is so aggressive. It's not just fighting diseases, it's fighting everything that might be a threat. Makes sense, Deshawn nodded. On Earth, threats could come from anywhere. New diseases, toxic plants, dangerous animals, environmental changes. Our bodies learn to treat everything as potentially dangerous until proven otherwise. Including our medical scanners, Nurse Tuluk realized. Sorry about that, Deshawn said with a sheepish grin. I didn't know I was doing it. But yeah, if my body detects something trying to analyze or penetrate my cells, it probably assumes it's some kind of attack and fights back. Dr. Yethra looked up from her notes. Deshawn, you mentioned that humans are the only species from Earth to reach space. What about the others? Well, most of them specialized too much. The big predators were amazing hunters but couldn't adapt when their prey disappeared. The cold weather animals couldn't handle temperature changes. Even our closest relatives, the other primates, found their niches and stayed there. But humans didn't specialize? Nope. We stayed generalists. We could live almost anywhere: hot climates, cold climates, mountains, forests, deserts, even islands. We ate everything: plants, meat, fish, insects. We used tools, built shelters, developed language. Instead of becoming the best at one thing, we became pretty good at everything. Security Chief Vortak was still skeptical. That seems like it would make you weaker, not stronger. Deshawn shook her head. That's where you're wrong. Specialists are powerful in their specific environment, but they're helpless outside of it. Generalists might not be the best at any one thing, but they can survive anywhere. Dr. Corvin was putting the pieces together. So when humans finally developed space travel, you were already prepared for the challenge of living in completely alien environments. Right? Space is just another hostile environment to adapt to. Artificial gravity, recycled air, confined spaces, radiation exposure. For humans, that's just Tuesday. Deshawn laughed at her own joke. And you've been exploring space for how long? Dr. Yethra asked. About 60 years now. Started with simple missions to our moon, then other planets in our system, and now we're spreading out to nearby star systems. Some humans are even talking about trying to reach the galactic core eventually. Dr. Corvin felt a chill of excitement and concern. If humans were this adaptable and were actively exploring space, it was only a matter of time before they encountered other galactic civilizations. The question was, would that be a good thing or a potentially dangerous development? Deshawn, he said carefully, what are human intentions regarding other species? When you meet new civilizations, what do you typically do? She looked surprised by the question. Help them if they need it, trade with them if they're interested, learn from them if they're willing to teach. What do other species usually do? Dr. Corvin sat alone in his office late that night, staring at the official report form glowing on his computer screen. The cursor blinked in the empty species classification field, waiting for him to make a decision that could change everything. Through his office window, he could see Deshawn's repaired escape pod docked at the station, ready for departure in the morning. The door chimed softly, and Dr. Yethra entered carrying 2 cups of hot tea. Can't sleep either? She asked, settling into the chair across from his desk. How can I? Dr. Corvin replied, accepting the warm cup gratefully. We've discovered the most remarkable species in galactic history, and I have no idea what to do about it. Dr. Yethra sipped her tea thoughtfully. The regulations are clear. Any new species must be reported to the Galactic Health Authority within 24 hours. They'll want samples, detailed biological analyses, quarantine protocols. And then what? They'll classify humans as a potential biological hazard because our equipment can't scan them properly? Deshawn could end up in a research facility for the rest of her life. They sat in comfortable silence for several minutes, both lost in thought. Finally, Dr. Yethra spoke up. What if we're looking at this the wrong way? What if the equipment failures aren't the problem? What if they're the solution? Dr. Corvin raised an eyebrow. What do you mean? Think about it. Every species we've encountered so far can be analyzed, cataloged, and understood through our technology. But humans evolved to resist exactly that kind of analysis. Maybe that's not a bug, maybe it's a feature. Before Dr. Corvin could respond, his communication device buzzed. Security Chief Vorthak's voice crackled through the speaker. Doctor, you need to come to Docking Bay 7 immediately. We have a situation. They rushed to the docking bay to find Deshawn standing outside her escape pod, looking up at a massive display screen showing galactic news feeds. Her expression was one of pure amazement. What's wrong? Dr. Corvin asked. Deshawn pointed at the screen. I've been trying to contact other human ships to let them know I'm okay, but I'm picking up signals from everywhere. There are human vessels all over this sector of the galaxy. Way more than I expected. Security Chief Vorthak looked concerned. How many ships are we talking about? Dozens, maybe hundreds. Traders, explorers, research vessels, even some families and converted cargo haulers. Deshawn turned to face them. Doctor, I think you're about to meet a lot more humans very soon. Dr. Yethra's eyes widened. If they're all biologically similar to you, our entire medical system is going to be overwhelmed. Every hospital ship, every medical facility, none of our equipment will work. But that's not necessarily a bad thing, Dr. Corvin said slowly, an idea forming in his mind. Deshawn, how do humans handle medical care among yourselves? Pretty simply, actually. Basic tools, natural healing, preventive care. We learned a long time ago that the more complicated you make something, the more likely it is to break when you really need it. She gestured toward the damaged scanners visible through the medical bay windows. Looks like we were right about that. Dr. Corvin made his decision. Walking back to his office, he sat down at his computer and began typing his report. In the species classification field, he wrote, Resilient humanoid variant, recommends standard treatment protocols with equipment-resistant notation. What are you doing? Dr. Yethra asked, reading over his shoulder. I'm protecting them, Dr. Corvin replied, continuing to type. And protecting us. If I report humans as a completely unknown species, the authority will panic. But if I classify them as a variant of a known humanoid type that happens to be resistant to scanning technology, they become just another interesting case study. Nurse Taluk appeared in the doorway. Doctor, we're receiving communication requests from several human vessels. They've heard about Deshawn's accident and want to make sure she's okay. Put them through to the main conference room, Dr. Corvin said. Let's meet our new neighbors properly. Over the next several hours, they spoke with human captains, doctors, engineers, and families from across the sector. Each conversation revealed the same pattern: humans were peaceful, curious, helpful, and completely impossible to analyze with standard medical technology. As dawn approached on the ship's artificial day cycle, Deshawn prepared to leave. Dr. Corvin walked her to her escape pod, carrying a small case of medical supplies that had been tested and confirmed to work despite her unusual biology. "Thank you," she said, shaking his hand warmly. "Not just for the medical care but for treating me like a person instead of a test subject." "Thank you for showing us something we never expected to find," Dr. Corvin replied. "A species that survived by becoming impossible to fully understand." As Deshawn's escape pod disappeared into hyperspace, Dr. Yethra joined him at the observation deck. "Do you think we made the right choice?" Dr. Corvin watched the stars twinkling in the distance, knowing that many of them now sheltered human explorers. "I think we just discovered that the galaxy is about to become a much more interesting place. And for the first time in my career, I'm looking forward to equipment failures." They stood together in comfortable silence, both understanding that they had witnessed something remarkable, the first meeting between galactic civilization and a species that had evolved beyond the need for their advanced technology, simply by becoming perfectly, impossibly human.